Joining me now, Senator Tom Cotton of the Senate Intel and Armed Services Committee. Senator, does that inspire confidence? Are you reassured by what may have occurred today?
No, Laura, not at all. I don't think we need to wait for Joe Biden to know that this summit was bad for America. The only question is whether it was catastrophic for America. We've seen for months abject appeasement of the Chinese communists by President Biden, for instance, turning the other cheek on China's spy balloon, or they're hacking into our government computer systems, or their continued cheating on trade deals. At the outset of this summit meeting, Joe Biden said it was an honor and a pleasure to host a communist dictator who's committing genocide against his own people. That sets a very bad tone. It's the kind of thing Ronald Reagan would have never done, even when he sat down with Russian leaders. He would have negotiated from a position of strength. So I think the only question we need to know now is just what did Joe Biden agree to give away behind closed doors today to decide whether this was merely bad or catastrophic for America?
Well, Reagan, for whom I worked, was about peace through strength. And now it's appeasement through weakness and supplication. That's obviously what happened here across the board. From everything that we've heard and everything that we knew going in, that was going to be their approach. On top of this, Senator, we have China building a listening post / military base in Cuba. Those plans are underway, likely to be open sometime in the next year and a half. No reporting on whether that topic came up.
No, and I bet it probably did not, Laura. I bet they didn't raise the origins of the coronavirus pandemic in Wuhan, almost certainly from Chinese communist-controlled labs. Probably didn't raise China sending a spy balloon to float all across America as well. In addition to the site you mentioned in Cuba, they probably didn't mention China's growing attempts to try to control access to the Panama Canal as well, because everything that Biden has done leading up to this summit has been about setting the mood music, if you will, for smooth relations with a communist adversary for Joe Biden's reelection. Another thing we saw today at the outset of this summit that's very troubling, it's just a couple seats down from Joe Biden, is John Kerry, not the Secretary of Defense, but John Kerry, the special envoy for climate change. It goes to show you what Joe Biden's priorities are when dealing with the Chinese. It's not American jobs, it's not American safety, it's getting a climate change deal with China, which of course they would cheat on.
Yeah, a former Pentagon official, Senator, is convinced that Xi is here to beg Biden to ease up, period. Watch.
Why is she agreeing to this meeting now? And I think part of the reason is that I think they fear that maybe the Biden administration strategy is working. The de-risking economically, I think, is hurting the Chinese economy. Part of the reason China is here is to get out from under the pressure that the Biden administration has helped to build.
Well, Senator, that is true. I mean, they haven't pulled back on Trump's tariffs yet. I think they'll do that in the second term. But why pull up on the gas when China is weak? Throw them a lifeline after what they've done?
Yeah, Laura, we should be doubling down. The president hasn't rescinded Donald Trump's tariffs, in part because he's afraid of the political consequences. But of course, tariffs and sanctions can grow stale over time as China finds new ways to cheat on them by, for instance, transshipping goods made in China through third-party countries into the United States. The administration has not undertaken a vigorous effort to update and enforce the Trump tariffs and sanctions. And again, China knew that it was on the front foot going into this summit because Biden has projected weakness and appeased China in every way this year. And that's why I say we know this summit was bad for America. Now the only question is, was it catastrophic? And summits can be catastrophic. In 1961, after JFK went to Vienna and was intimidated by Khrushchev, you got the Berlin Wall a few months later, and a year later, you got the Cuban Missile Crisis. President Biden had a terrible summit with Vladimir Putin in the summer of 2021. You got the invasion of Ukraine a few months later. So the question is not whether this was a good summit, it's whether it was merely a bad summit or something much worse.
Yeah, I think they don't have to go to war with Taiwan. I think they'll just take Taiwan. I mean, I just think they don't think they have to, really go much further, because I think they think they'll get whatever they want now. I just think it's handed to them on a silver platter. Senator, we really appreciate it. Thank you.